On this week's episode of the WNP podcast, is this the year Mahomes gets dethroned? Stay tuned. Episode 175 of the We're Not Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how are you today?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking, Michael. How are you?
Doing pretty fantastic. Good day at work, and although the week started slow, I don't know about you, but Monday and Tuesday dragged stupendously. Finally got a day that actually went by pretty quick, and now we get to talk about football. And it's been about a week and a half because you decided that you wanted to make your thigh look like salami, and we're here.
Pastrami.
Same thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just felt like the quirky thing to do. So, I figured let's have some fun. So now I'm just sitting here chilling, hobbling around the house, legs looking nice and fresh and meaty and ready to rep a pod.
Nice and mangled. You love to see that. So if you hear any yelps, just know Chase may have moved in the wrong way, wrong direction, whatever it might be. There's no dogs in either house, at least to my knowledge. So if there's a yelp, assume it's Chase.
That's fair.
All right. Well, Chase, we actually have some news on the docket today, but before we get into that, just want to let everyone know today is the AFC and NFC West preview. It's going to be such a good time. We go through each team. We give you prediction on records, who's going to win the division, who makes playoffs, etc. So it's going to be a great time. But we do have some news, that being 3 pretty big named players get new contracts, whether it's a new contract outright or extension. So let's talk about it. First, Saquon. He's a part of that big group of running backs that they had the phone call, they want to get paid more, and immediately folds for only $900,000 more than the franchise tag was offering him.
So here's the difference, Mike. I'm a lot more on the side of I'm with him taking this deal. Because holding out, he's not going to get an extra $2, $3, $4 million. Why sit out a year, waste a year of your prime after you're coming off of a successful, relatively injury-free season, miss out on $11 million, and then next season, see what happened to Lev Bell. He sat out in the prime of his career, came back and was never anything, and actually got less money when he did come back. So it's the same thing as Saquon. He goes, he gets a raise from what he was going to get. He gets bonus money. He gets different incentives. I don't remember exactly what they are, but a couple incentives to make him a little bit more cash. He gets more guarantees, and now with this, if he gets franchise tagged again next year, it's gonna be more than what than what it was this season. So all those things, said and done, I'm sure he didn't get a long-term deal at a price that he wanted, but he's still getting money, and he's at least set himself up to get some guarantees and a better price tag next year.
Hey, I agree. Go get your money. And if I was in his position, I would absolutely sign because it's the game that you love to play and you're getting paid $11 million for it. 100% agree with the fact that he goes out and signs. My big disagreement is everything that led up to that point. He turned down a rumored, which this isn't official, but a rumored $13 million per year deal on a multi-year deal with $22 million guaranteed. 13 mil, a lot more than 11 mil. And then he goes and makes this big commotion, joins in with all the other running backs who are pissed that they're not getting paid well enough. He goes on a show. I'm not exactly whose show it was, but he said, I might have to sit out. If they're not going to pay me what I think I deserve, I might have to sit out. And then he goes and accepts an offer that was smaller and has a lot less protections on it than what he was rumored to be getting offered a day after these conversations. I just think it's hypocritical. Look, I love that he goes and gets his money, but the huge, blow up facade that he was displaying before signing the contract that just rubs me the wrong way. Why go through all that just to back down on what you're saying?
See, I don't believe it's hypocrisy. You know, this is him saying maybe I need to sit out, and then he changes his mind and signs. This isn't telling everybody you should sit out because this, and then he signs. You know, that's not hypocrisy. It's more of a changing of minds. And regardless, like not enough people, because like people just generally don't get it. There's not enough of a spotlight shown onto these players' agents, because his agent royally fucked up somewhere, for lack of a better term, because none of this should have gotten to this point. You know, it shouldn't have gone past the the deadline to get this deal done, especially if that rumored price was true. There would have been a way that agent could have gotten better guarantees and whatever was going to be in there, whatever he needed. When it comes down to all these logistics in these details, these agents don't get enough heat. And this isn't him just negotiating his own contracts, signing his own deals. He's listening to the advice of someone he pays money, and like that guy really is the one that hurt him more than anything.
Yeah, and I think the initial offer was 13 million, and then I think like 16 or 17 guaranteed, and then the up during the deadline of the extension period got moved up to 22 million. At least that's the rumor. So, the guaranteed money did get bumped up a bit, and if it is 13 million, man, that's a whiff for sure. Especially if it's a multi-year deal, because from this point forward, knowing what the running back market looks like, does Saquon go cash in his next deal, whatever it might be? Does he go cash in for at least 13 million per year with 22 million guaranteed going forward?
I don't know. If he goes out this year and has a strong year, stays healthy, it's possible that he can go out and get a deal to his liking. But it's a position that the league doesn't want to pay, and be with the volatility of some injury history, you just don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a young generational quarterback, Justin Herbert. He gets a 5-year, $262.5 million extension, making him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And I think this is the third time we've gotten a new highest paid quarterback this offseason.
It's also dumb. It's like, I see you got paid this one. Let me go make $400,000 more than you. Now I'm the highest paid. Now Joe Burrow in a week. No, I'm going to be the highest paid. And then it's just going to be the cycle on and on and on. Trevor Lawrence is going to be next, or then Justin Fields is going to get it after him. Then Mac Jones is going to somehow get it after him as well too. We're going to be stuck in this just impossible cycle of all these guys getting paid, which, whatever. I mean, it's a very important position. So if they're getting that money and the team is willing to pay it, fair enough. Definitely not going to blame them. But if you really think about value, no, Justin Herbert should not be the highest paid player in the league, especially with his cap at this year. If you look at his talent level compared to some of the other guys, you'd be like, wow, that's wild, because he has $100 million payday this year. He's getting $100 million the first year of his contract, and that's going to, or not this year, I should say the first year of the deal, which I think is next year. So that's that's a lot of money right off the rip there, and it's really just is funny how these quarterback contracts work. I would pay him, whatever money is needed, because he is a very good quarterback. He's someone that I would want to have on my team for 10, 15 years. But it's just wild to think that this one player who doesn't have a playoff win, has had some ups and downs despite his high talent level, is just going to make $100 million year one of his contract.
Yeah, and it pissed me off because as a Bengals supporter, we obviously know Joe Burrow. He is looking for his new extension, and I'm thinking, man, I hope he gets it done before Herbert, because that's only going to move the needle even more. Sure enough, Herbert's deal gets done first. However, he did tell Joe Burrow did tell who's the guy in the fantasy, not footballers. Gosh, I can't remember his name now. Anyways,
I don't know.
He goes on an interview, and Joe Burrow says he's confident that with his deal that gets done, the other players with him, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, even Tyler Boyd's name was thrown in the ring by the commentator, not necessarily Joe Burrow, but he said he was confident that we will have all those guys back, which, who knows? If he came out and got a $45 million per year, I would be very happy with that because it doesn't make him the highest paid player, but allows us to go pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
As a Bengals fan, you should be happy no matter what he gets paid as long as you have Joe Burrow back.
Of course.
Yeah, you want Jamar, you want T. Higgins back, but the ship doesn't sail without Joe Burrow because he is at worst a top 3 quarterback in the league. So regardless of what you got to pay, like you want him back.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers as he also gets an extension. It just came up probably about an hour ago. 2 years, $75 million with the New York Jets. I'm not sure I saw an extension coming. I saw the rumors that the Jets were not concerned about being a one and done with Aaron Rodgers, but I didn't think it would come this early because we still haven't seen him actually take snaps for the Jets yet. And, the past couple of years, he hasn't looked as talented as the Aaron Rodgers we all know and love. So a little bit surprising, but at that number, you can't be too mad about it.
No, and compare the quarterback market, it's not bad by any means. And even if he isn't prime Aaron Rodgers, he's still one of the league's better quarterbacks. Like even not just in general, but even compared to starters, he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So he's worthy enough of that contract. He's going to propel that team at least into playoff contention, if not, a playoff spot, and we'll see from there. But it's going to be a completely different team, with Zach Wilson compared to Aaron Rodgers. So it's reasonable to give him that money, to give him that security, make him feel good, make it so he doesn't have to worry about anything else. Just let him play ball. It's fair enough.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people say that Aaron Rodgers will push the Jets over the hump, and a lot of people are saying it's between the Dolphins and the Jets to win the division. They're already writing off Buffalo, who's won the division multi-years in a row now, so kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I disagree.
Oh, well, now you've heard it, so there you go.
Okay, that's unique.
All right, well, next week we are covering the AFC and NFC North. That will be our kind of finale when it comes to division previews, but we got a lot more stuff during preseason. Going to be doing hot takes, going to be looking at some fantasy football, some college football. It's going to be fantastic. But next week does end our division previews with the North. Last week was the South. If you missed it, make sure to go check that out. And the East was obviously before that. But Chase, it's time to talk about the AFC and NFC West. I say we start with the AFC yet again. I don't know why we continue to start with the AFC, but I'm down for it because this division, this side of the country, the West, I think the AFC is a lot easier to pick than the NFC is.
Yeah, I would agree. The NFC, it's going to be a little more interesting. And I think pretty generally teams will probably feel that the one team is going to win the NFC North or West. I mean, excuse me. You're going to see some varying opinions, but consensus see it leaning more towards one team, whereas the AFC, I mean, it's slam dunk, locked and loaded. So it'll be an easier discussion.
Yeah. So let's start with it. You go ahead 1 through 4. I'll follow up, and then we can discuss the teams individually.
Number 1, I have the Kansas City Chiefs going 13-4, 5-1 division record, finishing first place in the AFC in general, getting that playoff bye. Number 2, the LA Chargers, they go 10-7. They actually, funny enough, go 1-5 in the division. It's just the way I have it working out. But they do make playoffs. They get that 6th seed. Number 3, the Denver Broncos go 9-8, 3-3 in the division. They have the 8th seed, so the first team outside looking in. And then finally, the Las Vegas Raiders 7-10, 3-3 division record.
Okay, I like it because I didn't necessarily want my 3rd and 4th team to be as low as they are. I don't think they will be as low down there, but when it came to looking up matchups, I just couldn't favor them in a lot of games. So when it comes to my 1 seed, I got the Chiefs 14-3, 4-2 in the division. The Chargers 11-6, 4-2 in the division. The Broncos 6-11, 2-4 in the division, and then the Raiders 5-12, 2-4 in the division. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Chargers make the playoffs. The Chiefs, the best team in the AFC, they get their bye.
Yeah, and it's all pretty fair. I mean, plus or minus a couple, like we're basically the same there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the Chiefs. Why do we have them 1?
Patrick Mahomes.
Who?
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, you're talking about Jackson Mahomes' brother.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
Brittany's
Brittany.
husband.
Yeah, Brittany. That's her name. Yeah, Brittany's husband. So if you don't know, this guy has a bit of a reach at the 10th overall pick. He was selected, but went to Texas A&M. They don't really, or Texas Tech, excuse me. They don't really put anything good into the NFL, and they haven't anytime soon, anytime recently. So, I just got a feeling that he is poised for a breakout year, though. I think this Patrick Mahomes guy, like he's ready to roll. Just hot take, might be the best quarterback in the league this year based on numbers, maybe even on talent. Kind of a wait and see. But yeah, in all actuality, having a quarterback that is dominant means so much to a football team. Even with a weak defense, you can still find yourself with a winning record making playoffs if you have an elite quarterback. And this is a team that, all said and done, all around, like I do like the talent. The defense might not be like, the number one defense in the league this year by any means, but it's still it's respectable enough. There's guys that both of us like there on the defensive side of the ball, but it's just Patrick Mahomes. He's so dynamic. He's so talented. He is just so poised. He can just really run an offense better than anybody else in the NFL can right now. It means so much more than any other piece that any team might have.
I actually don't like anyone on the Chiefs, so take that back. Um,
Oh, you don't? Not even your boy George?
no,
Oh boy,
you went to the enemy, so it is what it is.
he got drafted to the enemy. He's not like he's signed there.
An enemy's an enemy, right?
You're ridiculous.
You could be born there, but guess what? You're an enemy. So
now you're a Matthew Michkov hater.
yeah, I am actually. But no, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's fantastic. Obviously, not the highest paid quarterback, but we'll have to talk about that later. They were the number one offense last year. No surprise. What is a surprise? They were the 5th ranked defense last year. I think that just might be because of how good the offense was. That the defense didn't really need to. They demoralized teams so quickly that they just weren't interested in playing football for the last half, so the defense got to have their way with them. But they do have talented pieces there, like Chris Jones, who ruined my hopes and dreams. But the special teams, they're ranked very nicely as well at 10. When you look at key departures, though, there's some big question marks here because you got Orlando Brown, who was obviously one of their cornerstone tackles, as well as Andrew Wiley. They both leave, so brand new tackles here in Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. Both good players. Will they be able to hold up like the last 2 tackles did? We'll have to wait and see. But I think the biggest departure is Eric Bieniemy. And what do we see all there? Because obviously Andy Reid, he always seems to be the one that's calling the plays, but Eric Bieniemy, he's in the back room with the guys coming up with these plays and helping to improve this offense. He heads over to Washington to try to, show everyone he's a great offensive coordinator and he deserves a head coaching job, which he hasn't gotten to this point. But we see Matt Nagy come in, and Matt Nagy has had some success under Andy Reid up to this point. But how big of a difference do we see in a Matt Nagy offense that has so much unproven talent when it comes to the weapons on this team outside of Travis Kelce? I think Mahomes still, with the unproven talent, with Matt Nagy, still going to be phenomenal. But do we see a step back at all? Do we see, not a unanimous MVP, but a fight for that MVP?
I mean, he's going to be an MVP conversation no matter what. And no matter who it is, even if it is Connor McDavid or Patrick Mahomes, you can't say this guy is going to be unanimous MVP every year, no matter what. There's always going to be somebody that goes up there and contends. So he's going to 100% be in that conversation still. And I really don't think much changes with Bieniemy out the door because, as you said, Andy Reid is kind of the play caller when it comes to that offense. Bieniemy helps, implement systems and develop plays, all those types of things. But as you saw in the quarterback series, they have basically one day per week where the team could just basically make plays. And Patrick Mahomes is the smartest guy in that room. So like even with Bieniemy gone, it doesn't really matter. He can go out there and create plays on his own like he already has and has had success doing so. So I really don't think it changes that much. Like it's a pretty self-sustaining system simply because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, so I'm super curious to see what this Kansas City team looks like because I'm hoping it's just a notch worse where the Bengals, who are 3-1 against the Chiefs up to this point, can become 4-1 against them. Take the AFC Championship Series 2-1. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the team is going to be fantastic. Let's look at the Chargers now. A team that's been a playoff contender at least since they've gotten Justin Herbert, but they haven't been able to get over that hump. Still no playoff win for Justin Herbert, like you mentioned earlier. What do you think about the Chargers?
So they're a very talented football team. As we've kind of hinted at before. I apologize, my tablet is spazzing out on me a little bit, but we're talking about just Justin Herbert, really specifically as this main talent here on this team. He is the highest paid quarterback in the league now, and even though it's it's an arbitrary thing at this point, he still did get paid that money for a reason because he has this transcending talent. He has when he's on, he's on. He's got great ball placement. He has a good arm. He can read the field well. He can handle pressure well. He can move, but there are times where the brain farts happen, where there are mistakes, where he's not on as much. So it's a bit concerning, but I thought last year seemed a little more consistent, even though the numbers might not have been as efficient as he was in the past. So hopefully he can build on that this next season coming up. With the tools that they have around him, especially with new incoming first round pick Quentin Johnson as another receiving option, alongside with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and also Austin Eckler out of the backfield. He's got a real opportunity for some success up front. And then of course when you're talking about this defense, like there's just still a lot of talent. I mean, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, just the two key players of this defense, of course. Like they're special pass rushers, and they get a lot of support, from that defensive back group that features, my boy Derwin James, who I've always been a big fan of. Like there's so many names, there's so much talent, where as long as this team is composed, as long as they continue to be coached right, now that they have Kellen Moore coming in, I feel really good about the offense. They've got some opportunity to have success.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Chargers. Chase talked about all the talent that this team has, and it's never been a question about talent for the Chargers. Even go back to the LT, Phillip Rivers days, that team was always so talented. The biggest problem is they don't play to their potential when it matters. And that's my question again at this point. I mean, they always have so many injuries. Can they stay healthy? That's number one. Number two, what does the coaching staff do? Obviously, I think Kellen Moore is a big upgrade over Joe Lombardi. Not a fan of Joe Lombardi whatsoever. But everyone knows how I feel about Brandon Staley. After year one, I was already very concerned. After year two, he fails, what was it, a 35-0 lead? I was calling,
Yeah.
It was either 28-0, 35-0, whatever it was. At that point, I was calling for his head. I do not think Brandon Staley is a great coach. I would rather, and everyone knows my gripes with Zach Taylor, I would easily take Zach Taylor over Brandon Staley every day of the week. I think Brandon Staley is a bottom 10 head coach in the league, and that's my big question with this Chargers team. One, can they stay healthy? Two, what does that coaching staff look like?
Yeah, and it's a fair criticism because I am with you where Brandon Staley, it's a less than ideal situation when you're looking at a head coach, but as long as he just lets his coordinators do his thing, lets Kellen Moore cook, I mean, the offense has a lot of chance to really boom. And I hope that is the case, because if they aren't, a high-end team this year, if they aren't making playoffs and winning a game, I mean, even if they make playoffs and if they don't win a game, like he still has a chance to get the can. But if they miss playoffs, like he's out, there's not a chance he's retaining that job. So it really is put up or shut up for him at this point. And I hope the team does have success, because like there are a couple players that I just really love on that roster that I really pull for and root for. They have a great uniform setup, but Brandon Staley, as you mentioned, last couple of years has not really made you too excited about the product that they're going to be putting out?
Yeah, 19-16 over his career with the Chargers. When you look at their team last year, 10-7 record, obviously made playoffs, had that horrible defeat against the Jaguars in round one. But when you look at the offense, ranked 18th in the league with Justin Herbert and those weapons, it should definitely be higher. Obviously, Herbert was injured for a little bit last year. But then when you look at the defense, 27th. That is really bad. Kind of just shows the injuries. I know J.C. Jackson was a big signing for them on the outside, but he couldn't stay healthy at all last year. And then when you look at special teams, sitting 11th, which is pretty solid. But when you look at the overall team, definitely not performing up to their standard when it comes to injuries or coaching, whatever it is, they just can't get there.
And I really hope it's the year that page turns, because I want to see those powder blues and those yellow pants on my screen more and more, because like it's just such a pretty uniform. It really is.
I mean, how blessed are we at this point when it comes to the AFC? Because you can figure, now it might not come true every year, but you could reasonably guess that when it comes to the divisional round, when you have, the last four teams in the AFC, you're going to be seeing either Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Those are the guys that are going to be going up against each other, which, fantastic. That's what I want to see every single year. Just excellent quarterback play, and I'm really hoping that the Chargers can really start to prove that they can compete with the likes of the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs. I feel like at this point, though, right now, the Bengals and Chiefs are your 1A, 1B. Your Bills are number 2, and then the Chargers and the Jags, they're just trying to keep up.
I mean, I don't for like, maybe for the Chargers, sure. I don't want to necessarily say for the Jags that's trying to keep up. I think it's more trying to like catch up, because it's not like they've been in the race and they're slowing down and like people are just running them. It's more of them starting the race a bit later, because they had a 1 year younger quarterback, and they had a train wreck of a head coach his first year, and they had a lot of success last year. So I think it's more of a like catching up than a keeping up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's talk about the Broncos now. This is a team that is going to be very interesting to watch, because obviously a new head coach, Russell Wilson, who is really an all-time quarterback. I think he's already a Hall of Famer, but had a horrible year last year. What do we see from the Broncos?
So, as I kind of mentioned, I have them with a decent record, because really the way things went last year, like I don't see how that happens again, because as you mentioned, Russ, he is a super talented quarterback. He's someone that's had success since day one. I mean, he came in as a 3rd-round pick, took that starting job, and then just never let go. The way that he plays, the kind of presence that he commands on the field, it's stabilizing. It's sturdy. It should be, go back to what it was in Seattle. There was no reason that should have went the way it did. And the one issue that I will say about this offense, though, there's a certain name that I know you don't like that might hinder things a little bit. But as long as Russell Wilson can kind of get himself righted, if Javonte Williams can get back, and if we see that final step that we saw Jerry Jeudy start to take last year, I mean, there's a good chance that this offense ends up rolling pretty good, and it could honestly, like, it has a chance of being one of the highest scoring offenses in the league.
Who don't I like on this team?
The offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's fair. We just talked about him. Oh, Joe Lombardi being the offensive coordinator. Vance Joseph, the new defensive coordinator, which I do like. I think Vance Joseph will do a good job, although it's a little awkward because obviously Vance Joseph, a prior head coach for the Denver Broncos. So going to be a little awkward there, but
hey, don't ever. So I want people never to forget that Vance Joseph was there having the time of his life.
True. He was having the time of his life.
That video was so great, dude. I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah, and the defense last year, obviously fantastic, sitting 7th in the league. When you look at the offense, I'm surprised it's this high. It's at 28th. Would have thought it would have been 31st or 30th with how bad Russell Wilson was last year. Special teams, you're coming in at 18th. I think overall, it's a solid team. I don't think it's a great team. I don't think this is a team that can compete with your top 4 or 5 teams in the AFC. And I didn't really love their draft, if I'm being honest. I don't think Marvin Mims comes in and plays a huge role, but when it comes to Jerry Jeudy, Javonte Williams, those are guys I am super pumped about and really hoping that they can really hit their peak. And then I also like, who's the tight end? Greg Dulcich, that's right. Big fan of Greg Dulcich as well. So really hoping this team comes back around because I do think football is better with the Broncos alive and well. However, I don't think this is the year that they compete for a playoff spot with this tough a division.
Yeah, and I guess I got them at the 8 spot. I have them outside looking in, and I do think they compete. I just don't think they get in. Because I think there is enough tools to have success, like I said. And, building up on the defense, Pat Surtain is one of the league's best cornerbacks. Just let him keep rolling. And, Drew Sanders, I think, can come in and have a good impact. So, like, they've got enough pieces there. Yeah, it's not necessarily like a refined product. And, last year was just a tough look. But when you're looking at some of these pieces, I could really see, how if it all pieces together and it clicks, and if they go on and end up as a 11, 12 win team, I'd be like, damn. I wouldn't be like, holy hell, what the hell happened? I'd be like, oh, that's awesome, but not completely shocking, like, honestly.
Yeah, it'd be like, okay, Russell Wilson's back. Love to see that. Jerry Jeudy, he had his breakout. That's why people were saying he was the best wide receiver in that class. It would click. It wouldn't be like, we're not predicting that, but it would make sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be like the Cardinals going out and go 17-0 this year with Kyler Murray missing half the year.
Right. All right, last team, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Which they're in the next division we're talking about. I just thought we already talked about it before. I should have used a different analogy.
Oh, you were spoiling the Cardinals going 17-0?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. I can't believe I just did that.
Can't believe you. I can't believe you've done this. All right, Las Vegas Raiders. I
agree, man. I really do agree.
It's hard to find a bright spot.
Terry Wilson. He's on the NFI. Oh boy.
Okay, here's what I gotta say.
Oh boy.
Love Tyree Wilson. He was my tight end or my edge 2 when it came to the draft process.
He was my tight end 1 as well.
Love Michael Mayer. He was my tight end 3 coming into the draft process. But why do I feel like they were gosh darn reaches? Is it just because the Raiders were picking them? Obviously, we know the draft history of the Raiders. They love taking terrible players with their top couple of picks. I love both of these guys. I think, when you put their name and their draft pick next to each other, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. But then you see the Raiders logo and it's like, gosh damn, it was a reach, wasn't it? It had to be. There's no way.
Yeah, see, I'm not pessimistic like that. I don't think that way. I think all these are very respectable values, and they are good football players that they got at prices that they didn't pay absorbent amounts for. So I'm a little more optimistic than you are, apparently.
Although I do got to say, I think it was a reach with their third pick, Byron Young. I talked about how I was not a fan. I think you did eventually have him in your top 10 when it came to defensive tackles, but I was really not a big fan of Byron Young. So I guess there's that reach in my eyes, at least.
No, I think he's very respectable. I don't really have much of an issue with the pick. Maybe if you could get him a little bit later, potentially, sure. But like, I'm not necessarily against it. But oh my God, he's on the pup too. Holy hell!
Rip. All right, well, here.
The Raiders are cursed, dude.
I'm going to let you talk about the team overall, but I wrote down key storylines for, every team, and I really like the Raiders one, so I kind of want to say it. And once I say it, you can just immediately go into it, okay? Can Jimmy G and Josh McDaniels hit the lottery, or will Vegas bankrupt their season? Oh!
That could, why didn't you just make that the opening?
Oh, we might have to rewind.
Like, that'd be a great opening.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
They're much closer to crapping out on the table than going out and and hitting that snake eyes. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, Like I don't I I could see where they could have success because like Jimmy G is respectable. And as I said, like there are those rookie pieces are nice, but like as a whole, when you're looking at some of the names like just individually, Max Crosby is awesome, but like he can only do so much on his own. He needs Terry Wilson to really help him out. I like Traylon Merrick. Is he enough to really kind of hold down that defensive back group because like he's kind of the guy back there, and maybe Nate Hobbs is next. Like I don't know. And then when you're looking up front outside of like Garoppolo and Michael Mayer, Josh Jacobs, we'll see if he plays, which I'm assuming he will, but we'll see. We got to see how Devontae Adams clicks with Jimmy G. Might happen, might not. And then, like, I just don't think Jacoby Myers really is a fit for what they have going on there. So, like, it is just so many question marks that I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't think it's impossible, but if you like, this is the team that I would very safely bet on finishing last in the division. Like I wouldn't consider betting anybody else.
Yeah, and they even talked about, or at least there's rumors, I should say, that Hunter Renfrow might get cut.
Which I don't get because he's a very respectable slot receiver.
Yeah. Well,
like so like even if he's just like your backup slot guy, why would you just cut him? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't really get it. Last year, 6-11 on the season. They were 12th when it came to offense. It's actually pretty high. I'm surprised. But defense 24th, special teams 23rd. Look, I think Jimmy G is a downgrade to Derek Carr. I'm pretty sure I've talked about that because I think this move happened when we were doing the draft coverage. And if that was the case, I would have been very vocal about how I like Derek Carr a lot more than Jimmy G. I like Jacoby Myers. They lose Darren Waller. They bring in Michael Mayer through the draft. And then Josh McDaniels. I talked about Brandon Staley being a bottom 10 coach. Josh McDaniels may just be a bottom 5 coach.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so that's our AFC West. Let's now move to the NFC West. This is a division where I think a lot of people have a clear favorite, which makes sense based on their history, but I think there is a sneaky underdog here. So, Chase, go through your top 4, and then we'll talk about them individually after my top 4 is finished.
There absolutely is a sneaky underdog. But number 1, I do have the San Francisco 49ers going 11-6, 4-2 in the division. Obviously winning the division, getting the number 3 seed in the NFC. At second in the division, I have the LA Rams going 9-8, 4-2 division, grabbing that final playoff spot. Number 3 in the division, the Seattle Seahawks 9-8, 3-3 in the division. That 8 spot right behind the Rams. And then I have the Arizona Cardinals going 5-12, 1-5 in the division, 15th in the league as well. And I really could see a path to less wins in that. So I'm interested to see what you have.
All right, number 1, I've got the Seattle Seahawks at 12-5, 4-2 in the division. The San Francisco 49ers 11-6, 4-2 in the division. So I think we have the exact same for the 49ers. I've got the LA Rams at 7-10, 2-4 in the division, and the Arizona Cardinals at 4-13, 2-4 in the division. So very shocked that you had the Rams at number 2. So we'll get to that, but we'll start with your number 1, my number 2, that being the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, and it's a team that you know what you're getting every year. Kyle Shanahan, good coach. He's dealt with some very unfortunate injuries in the past, but he always gets the most out of his running backs, and he happens to have, the league's potentially best running back, and probably, not even potentially, like just the league's best running back until we see what Bijan does, and Christian McCaffrey. So when you can get the best out of your running backs and you have someone as lead as that, something special is going to be happening, especially in his first full year with the team. But when you're looking around, it's really going to depend a lot on the quarterback play. We really don't know who's going to be the starter because we don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be ready to go. We don't know if Trey Lance is going to come in and dominate. We don't know if Sam Darnold's going to end up showing enough and Trey Lance struggles. Like we have no idea what to expect. So, that's really only thing up in the air because like the receiving group is about the same as last year, and it did a respectable enough job. The offensive line, it's a very solid overall group. The defense is very strong, featuring just a lot of talent, just all through it. And, a guy that I really like, Fred Warner. There's just, as a whole, there's just a lot of talent here. And it's just going to kind of be the same as we've, as we've seen in recent history. Like they just a good team as long as they don't catch bad breaks. Like they're gonna win games.
Yeah, I think I'd have them higher than 11-6 if I didn't have so many questions about the quarterback situation. And then they lost a lot of players too. Now, these aren't players that, they're not the Nick Bosas, they're not the Fred Warners, but they're talented players that started for this team, and they're going to need to find replacements, which I think it's going to be, outside of the Eagles, one of the better situations where, you don't need to worry about losing a guy or two. But usually I like to keep key additions and key departures to 3 key names. The key departures list for the 49ers had 5. Charles Omenihu, Mike McGlinchey, Jimmy G, Samson Ebukam, and Jimmy Ward. All talented players that were starters for this team, all leaving the San Francisco 49ers. So although I think the defense is still going to be very good, I think the offense can still be good because obviously we saw Nick Mullins run the Kyle Shanahan offense. I do have questions when it comes to some of the departures as well as the QB situation because we did hear that Brock Purdy is supposed to be ready for week 1, supposed to be ready to go. But here's the question. Obviously, he played well last year, but is that going to be the Brock Purdy we know from here on out? Or are we going to see the Brock Purdy that teams passed on 7 rounds in a row? So I'm not really sure that any of these guys are the guy, or rather they're just a guy that Kyle Shanahan is taking further than what they're actually worth.
Well, Mike, if we go back in time to when me, you, and your dad recorded a college football episode in the little upstairs like loft, I don't know what the area is called, of your dad's house. We talked about some potential sleepers for the national championship, and I mentioned Iowa State because like at the time it was going to be sophomore quarterback Brock Purdy was going to come in and take a big step from his freshman year and really run that offense. And obviously that didn't happen, but maybe it just happened later than I expected, and he finally clicked and he looked as great as he did. So maybe that talent that I thought was there in the past really is there, and he sticks around and he can continue doing it. I really don't think it's impossible. I don't think it was just a flash in the pan necessarily. I very well could see a case where like that's just him and that's his NFL career where he's just really good. And at the same time, Trey Lance, who he never really got like an opportunity to start. When he finally did, he ended up getting injured for the year, very unfortunately. But it's gonna be so hard for him at this point to take over the job from Brock Purdy, who did what he did. For Trey Lance to come in and he hasn't really played like as a third overall pick. He hasn't really played in football games very much. In the last like 3-4 years, he's played in like 6 that he's actually like done anything in. Like it's a lot for a quarterback, man. So I really hope that he can bounce back, and if he doesn't get an opportunity here, gets one elsewhere, because I still am a very firm believer in the talent. But regardless, either Trey Lance hits and they do really well, or Brock Purdy hits and they continue doing really well. And even if not, they're still going to do really well because it's 49ers.
So why do you have them at 11-6?
Because they're not going to dominate. They're just going to do really well.
Oh, okay. Also, I got to say, you don't always have to mention everything about these teams, but I do want to mention it here. San Francisco 49ers, easily the worst draft of the 2023 NFL draft.
Hey, no.
Oh,
Jake Moody was worth that 3rd-round pick.
Think the Lions were the worst?
No, Jake Moody. The Lions were the best. Jake Moody was worth a 3rd-round pick, though. It was no Bengals draft. We're puking a little bit. But Jake Moody is going to be the league's best kicker in history.
Are you also a big Cameron Latu fan?
Oh, dude, he's the best. It's gonna be really great when he takes that role from George Kittle this year. He just got so much talent that I loved watching his film so much last year that I had to keep watching it. I couldn't stop.
Drafted 101, man. What a pick. Out of all the players at 101, you take Cameron Latu. But we do see one coaching change here as well. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans, he takes the head coaching job with the Houston Texans. We see Steve Wilkes replace him. So it's going to be interesting to see. And this is another one of those teams where what was it? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago where we talked about a coach was the coordinator for his team, didn't really want to give up the reign, That's the exact same case for this one as Kyle Shanahan. He is the offensive coordinator for this team.
Yeah, and like rightfully so, because like he knows ball. He's a strong offensive mind. Like he should be the dude. So like I'm all for it.
I'm trying to figure out who the coach was that we just ripped him apart because he wanted to be the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator, whatever it was.
I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody that was very, very bad at it.
Yeah. All right. Let's not talk about the Seattle Seahawks because they are my number one. Oh, actually, I will give the team rankings real quick. Last year, 13-4 49ers, fourth offense, second when it came to defense, 22nd when it came to special teams. So maybe that's why they took Jake Moody in the top 100 picks this year.
Didn't get him over that hump, baby.
All right, Seattle Seahawks, I've got them at 12-5. Chase has them at 9-8. Look, I'm a huge fan of the Seattle Seahawks team. I think the only question mark I have about them is Geno Smith. Is he going to continue to not write back? Because if that's the case, then we could see a very fun Seattle Seahawks team. Obviously, when you look at their offense, they've got so much talent. They brought in Jackson Smith and Jigba as well as Zach Charbonnet to help out the likes of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker. Their offensive line has, I mean, when Russell Wilson was there, it was easily the worst offensive line in the league. And now you look at it and you got Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas on the two tackle positions, and they look like they're going to be cornerstone pieces for that offensive line for 10 plus years. They got Noah Fant, who I think has been underutilized, and hopefully he can break out a little bit. They bring back Bobby Wagner when it comes to the defense. They got Tariq Woolen, of course, Devin Witherspoon coming in. So I just think that this team has a lot of talent, and to see what they did last year, I think they just continue to improve upon themselves. Last year they were 9-8, and they did make the playoffs. So I would not be shocked whatsoever if all this young talent / emerging talent is going to be able to take them over that hump, get them to 12-5.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of talent, as you mentioned. And, they might have a, like what ends up being the best defensive back group in the league, honestly. I wouldn't say it's impossible, especially in terms of starters, like with Devin Witherspoon coming in, Tariq Woolen being as good as he was. And, obviously they still have Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, who I will never forgive Matt Patricia for forcing him out. Matt Patricia, you can go kick rocks, dude. But like there is enough talent there, as you mentioned, and JSN is the dude. He's my number one receiver from this draft class. I think this is actually a pretty good spot for him where he can kind of come in, take the slot role as Tyler Lockett starts transitioning, out of the league in general, or just out of the team in general, I should say. And then you have JSN and DK as the future going forward. So I like a lot of what they have, but I also think that it's kind of they're going to be in the same boat as last year. I really do. I think the team is going to be the same despite the talent. It's just how it feels to me, where I feel like if they got an upgraded quarterback, not disrespecting Geno because he played great last year, but if they got, another tier of quarterback, I think that right there would get them those 3 wins because they could get that extra 500 passing yards on the year, the extra 4 passing touchdowns that helps them swing 4 extra games. Like I think like that truly is the difference here.
I would not be shocked if this is like just a dominant rushing offense with Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. Obviously, that's huge. I did want to bring up the draft once again because I think this might be one of the best drafts. Obviously, the Eagles, they have a fantastic one. Pittsburgh, they did as well. But these first 4 names, I know you specifically were in love with all of them, that being Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. At 37th, they took Derek Hall, the outside linebacker / edge out of Auburn, and then, of course, Zach Charbonnet with the 52nd overall pick. But, I mean, all fantastic players that I think can make a day 1 impact.
It was, especially up top, it was a great draft class. Like, it's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. And then even when you look at their, they got some solid free agents, and Jarek Reed as a 6th-round pick, and that could be some good value there. But like, it really has some good upside. They have a lot of day 1 impacts on top of what already is some young guys last year too. So that's it. Very well could be a team that booms and like potentially wins the NFC if Geno Smith plays as well as he did, maybe even a little better, and all these young guys boom. Like that wouldn't be completely out of the question, like unbelievably shocking. But it's also part of the reason why I think they need one more year, because the team, there's so many young pieces. Let these rookies get acclimated. Let those second-year players become third-year players, and all of a sudden they're rolling.
Yeah, my only question with this roster is Geno Smith and if he can keep it up, because when you look at the additions, obviously they were huge to the draft. They brought back Bobby Wagner, who had a very good season still on the Rams last year. And then key departures, you look Poona Ford, Cody Barton, Rashad Penny, guys that played for the Seahawks, but not guys that played for the Seahawks. So I think that this team is in a lot better spot than they were last year. Geno Smith, don't write back, and you're going to go to the playoffs again.
That's fair. It really is such an all-time quote.
It is. By the way, last year they were 14th in offense, 22nd when it came to defense, and special teams was 15th. Let's get to the Rams now. Your second place team in this division. You do have them making playoffs. I have them out of the playoffs at 7-10.
And there's really one name to kind of highlight in order for this team turning around, and that's Matthew Stafford.
Oh,
no, I did not want you to say it. I already said it. So Matthew Stafford, quarterback, Georgia, drafted by the Detroit Lions, got traded to the Los Angeles Rams and helped them win a Super Bowl. If you're not familiar, the reason why not be familiar is because last year he was kind of a ghost. When he did play, he struggled a little bit, and then he was injured and missed a lot of the year. Well, from what it all sounds like, he's good to go. He's healthy. He's rolling, and he still is one of the league's smarter quarterbacks. He still has one of the league's best arms. Like, he still has this talent. And when you combine that talent, when you still have Cooper Kupp, when you still have the guys on the defense like Aaron Donald, like there's enough there where like it was those were the reasons that they won in the first place anyway. Those like three guys right there, they'll be fine. Like there's going to be some newer guys coming in. Like their whole special teams, according to like what they're projecting for our lads, is all brand new. It's so there's going to be some guys there. Byron Young's going to come in and probably have to play a role as a rookie. Stetson Bennett, who knows, Mike? Maybe he comes in, takes a job from Stafford, and that point, if he's taking the job from Stafford, that means they're going to be rolling because Stetson Bennett's the best quarterback in the league. But there's there's enough there where as long as they all play good enough, and then Stafford plays the level that I think he can play, like he's alone, him and Cooper Kupp can win them 7-8 games. So you just gotta make sure your defense helps you win a couple extra ones.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to disagree a little bit. I do think Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald can win them a couple games, but to the point where they get near that double-digit win mark and get into the playoffs, got to disagree. I think this is one of the thinnest rosters or at least in the NFL. They lost a lot of people, including their two starting safeties, Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott. They lost, of course, the GOAT, Baker Mayfield. And then when it comes to key additions, at least through the free agent market or trades, not including their draft picks, they got no one. So, that's not great either. So I'm excited to see what this team can do. I think Mike LaFleur coming in as the offensive coordinator will be exciting to see if he can help a healthy Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. But I think they're all aging at this point. Aaron Donald, still very good. Was he the unanimous best defensive lineman last year? I don't think so. And PFF says he was the third defensive lineman in the league last year. When you just look at the roster, outside of their top guys, I don't see it. Van Jefferson, woo. Ben Skoranek, woo. Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers, I hope he has a boom year. But there's just not enough here for me. It's not to the level of the Arizona Cardinals, but there's a reason I have them at 7-10. Last year, their offense was 25th in the league. Their defense, 6th. Their special teams, 28th. So really not excited about this aging roster, where I think all of these guys, regardless of coming back, being healthy, I think they continue to prove that they are aging and they are going to continue to take a step back, whether it be a full step or, just a tiny step. I don't think they're going to be at their peak like they were 2 years ago.
And maybe not the peak, but I still think that they're going to compete more than you expect. And I can understand people disagreeing. It's fine. This is one of my more, like warm to hot takes compared to the rest of what I have. So it's fair. I have enough faith, in that roster. Or really in that roster, I mean Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald, and as well as the new running back one, as we all know, Zach Evans. I've got enough faith in that group where they could surprise.
Question for you here. I was interested to see what it was like, obviously, before this point, but a little quiz for you. Kyle Shanahan versus Sean McVay. Who has the better record with their respective team?
Like winning percentage?
Yes.
Because it's been different time spans. I'd probably have to say Sean McVay. They're probably both actually not super great. They're probably pretty close to each other. Because I know some bad luck with the Niners. The Rams had what they did last year, but I'm gonna go with Sean McVay.
So Sean McVay has only coached one season longer than Kyle Shanahan, and you are correct. Sean McVay 67-41, Kyle Shanahan 52-46. He is a lot closer to 500 than I think most people expect.
And dude, it's because he had so many years of the talent's here. They're coaching right, but too bad the talent's actually not here because it's too busy sitting in the hospital bed because everybody's getting hurt.
Yeah. All right, finally, the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, they were really bad last year, 4-13. Kyler Murray, good chance he misses the first couple of games. What do you expect from this team?
I mean, I saw somebody, an analyst, project them at 2-15, and I was like, God, dude, that's so low. But then when you think about it, even when Kyler played last year, he wasn't great. It wouldn't be impossible. I don't know if people remember, but season and a half ago, the Cardinals were, I should say 2 seasons ago at this point. I'll put it that way. The Cardinals were rolling. I think they might have been undefeated at that point. They were approaching 10-0, 11-0, whatever it was. They were the best team in the league. Nobody could sniff them. And then they ran into the Detroit Lions, who got their first win of the season. And ever since then, the Cardinals cannot win football games. They've been broken. They've had injuries. The team's dysfunctional. Been an absolute mess. And it's going to continue because even when Kyler is healthy, they're going to struggle. Because the talent, it's just not there for me. You lose your best, wide receiver, Nuke's out the door. Now you got to hope that Marquise Brown could be your one, and hopefully Rondale Moore steps up and takes the jump that you need. You're hoping that James Conner can continue being an efficient running back, and again, you're hoping that Kyler can bounce back and be healthy. And if not, Colt McCoy is going to be your guy, or maybe Clayton Tune. And then when you're talking about the defensive group, you're hoping that Budda Baker can continue doing what he does. You're hoping that Isaiah Simmons steps up and finally does something more than just being average. There's not much to really. There's a couple individual talents. That'd be cool seeing them somewhere else. That's how I feel about some of these guys. As a whole, it's just this just doesn't look very good.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And there's always a time where you're looking at the new coaches in the league and you're thinking, okay, what can these guys do for us? And I think pretty easily, at least from my perspective, Jonathan Gannon is that one head coach where I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Here's another one. And that's what that noise was, because here's the infamous clip of Jonathan Gannon meeting Rondale Moore.
What's up, man? How you doing? Good. Good. Shoo, 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 shoo. Shots. Explosives. You can run.
Shoo, 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 shoo. Shots. Explosives. You can run.
I forgot about that, to be honest.
It's so cringe, and obviously the cringiness of a coach doesn't determine their success, but
sometimes it does.
With an injured Kyler, with a Jonathan Gannon that comes in, and immediately for me, when it comes to new coaching hires, he's the one I have the least faith in. There's a lot of questions here. So I'm excited to see what happens. They got some fun talent through the draft: Paris Johnson, B.J. Ojulari, Garrett Williams. But then through free agency, the only player they got, Kazir White. Key departures, they lose Byron Murphy, who is a big piece for them. They lose Zach Allen. Just a lot of things where I'm like, look, new head coach that wasn't, super exciting in my viewpoint. An injured Kyler last year ranking 30th in offense, 26th in defense. It's not a team that is going to be ready to compete.
Yeah, like it really is a shame because, as I mentioned before, the Lions crippled them. They really were looking like a really fun team. Kyler, was going to come over his 4'7" stature and have some success, but it's just, you look at everything and you look at all these players had so much promise, and yet every single one is underwhelmed, and you don't see them getting out of that rut. Like this very well could be on its way to figuring out how the hell you're going to get out of this Kyler Murray deal because you're about to draft Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, that's a good player right there. Would you take Caleb Williams over Kyler Murray right now?
Probably, yeah.
What? Do you think it's easy, or you think it's a question?
I think it's a hard decision if you were drafting like this season. If he was available this year and you were drafting in this draft, it's a very hard decision. But if they're in a spot to draft him next season, then it's not really a question, because at that point, Kyler still did come back and didn't do enough to win them extra games.
Right. All right, well, that's going to do it for our AFC and NFC West previews. We'd love to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And remember, next week, the AFC and NFC North, the finale. Obviously, we have ties there. Chase, it's always your favorite episode because you get to talk about your favorite Green Bay Packers. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great time.
Yeah. Go Cheese, go.
Are you happy that you just said that?
No. Is that something they say? Go Cheese, go?
No, I think they say go Pack, go.
Go Cheese, go, baby. Yeah. Go Cheese.
All right, well, stay tuned for that. I want to thank you so much for coming out and giving it a listen. If you want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's, again, on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could, please give us a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought down in the comments below. Who do you have winning the AFC and the NFC West? If you are listening on a podcast platform, if you could, please give us a 5-star rating and a follow. We'd absolutely love you for it. Thanks so much for coming out. And as always, we're not professionals.